Today we're going to be talking about how to make a latte for beginners. I'm going to go over the basics of pulling a shot of espresso, grinding your beans, and steaming your milk. So if you don't know much about coffee and you want to get more into it and make your lattes, iced lattes, or shots of espresso at home, this video is for you. If you could please like and subscribe, that would really help me continue to make content. I have a huge giveaway coming out that you're not going to miss. In the description, there will be links for all of these products below, as well as some cheaper alternatives to these products for those who are getting started. If you use those links, I'll make a small commission at no extra charge to you that goes back to funding this channel. So let's go ahead and get into it. First off, I want to go over a few of the basic things that you need. One, you need an espresso machine. This is probably one of the cheaper ones to get you started. That is a machine that's not like a manual machine, so it has everything you need into it. So it heats up the water for you, it pulls your shot of espresso, it comes with a portafilter, and it steams milk. You're going to need a scale. This one is a very expensive scale. I wouldn't recommend necessarily starting with it, so I'm going to link some alternatives to that on Amazon. And then you need a coffee grinder, and you need specific coffee grinders. You can't just go to Walmart and pick up one for $30. I would recommend spending at least $200, and I'll link some of the $200 grinders in the description to get you started. This one comes in about $400. This is the DF64E by Tampering grinders, which means it has an electronic thing, so it times your grinding for you, and it has a hopper and a bellow system. I'll get more into that a little bit. You're going to need a pitcher for steaming your milk, and you are going to need a cup for pulling your shot of espresso into. And the last thing that you will need is you will need some good quality coffee beans. And what I mean from good quality coffee beans is you are going to want to buy coffee beans with a roast date on the bottom of it, not a date for expired by or used by, but specifically the date that the beans were roasted. This ensures that you have fresh, good quality coffee beans, and I would recommend drinking them within a month or so of purchasing them. So if it's roasted on February 1st, you should probably finish it by around March 1st to March 10th, somewhere in there, trying to finish a bag to keep your beans fresh. That's going to give you the most consistent results. Espresso can be a very finicky thing, and you're going to want to make sure you have everything to set you up for success. So what you're going to do is, this is a cup that came with the Tampering DF64, and what I'm going to do is simply weigh my beans in it. So I'm having my scale to set to 0. So I'm going to take beans, and I'm going to put 18 grams of beans in there. This is a good starting point for espresso, and it's important to have a pretty accurate scale down to 1/10 of a gram, because you're going to want to have exactly 18 grams in your coffee. Otherwise, what will happen is it will be very hard to duplicate your shot down the road when you're trying to make a second one. So I got 18 grams of coffee in. This is just a starting point. I'm going over the basics here. There are some more advanced things. You can play with these ratios, but this is just going to get you started to pull a good shot of coffee at home at the beginning. So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and take your beans and you're going to pour them into your grinder. And I have a little funnel on mine to keep it cleaner when you do so. And what you're going to do is actually, you're going to want to get your scale, and you're going to want to weigh your cup and your funnel, and there's a tare button here which will set it back to 0, and you're going to put that on there, and then you're going to grind. There we go. You're going to click the grind button, and you're going to want to make sure as much as those grinds come out as possible, and you're going to put that back on your scale to make sure you are at 18 grams to make it as close as possible and as consistent as possible. Sometimes grinds get stuck in the grinder, which makes it a little more finicky when it comes to it. For my grind setting, typically what it means is the lower the number, the smaller the coffee grounds will be. So when you're pulling espresso, you're going to want very small grinds in order to create a resistance in your coffee for the pressure to build up for your coffee to extract. So right now I am on setting 16 or so on it. Not that that really matters. Every grinder is different and it changes based off of beans. So what I'm going to do, and that can change over time too. So if this bean was on day 4 since it was roasted, it can then change on day 20 and you might need to make your coffee a little bit finer. This is a portafilter. They have spouted ones here that typically come with the machine, and they also have bottom ones like we have here, which has no bottom to it. And you put a little basket in there and you can kind of see it, and it makes it a little bit more of a mess. But we are going to start with what the machine has today here. So the nice thing about this is a dosing cup that came with the grinder, but it fits on top of the portafilter. So you can put your portafilter like so and flip it over. And I like to give it a shake to even out the coffee grounds just a little bit in the portafilter. We're going to lift that off, get rid of this a little bit, and we are going to take our tamper and we are going to just simply push our tamper on top of it, and we're going to take our fingers around the outside of it and try to make it as even and as flat as possible, kind of lining up the top of the tamper with the top of the basket here to make sure you have a nice even tamp. We are looking for more evenness rather than a bunch of force. So you don't need to dig your arm into your portafilter and into your tamper in order to have a good tamped shot of espresso. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to click a button on our machine. This varies by machine, and this is just going to purge some water here. That gives us a little bit more consistency when it comes to making our coffee. And the nice thing about having a espresso machine like this and a grinder like this is it has the opportunity to allow you to upgrade down the road. And what I mean by that is there's other espresso machines and grinders that come in one kind of more convenient package. But if you want to get a better grinder or a different grinder down the road or a different espresso machine, you then have to start completely over, where this kind of gives you the option to do one or the other to continue improving your coffee journey and your coffee equipment. So we're going to go ahead and lock this portafilter into the group head. It's a little hard to do from this angle, but we're getting there. You're going to want your machine to probably heat up about 15 minutes or so, depending on the machine. The reason for that is the longer you heat it up, the more everything gets warm and the more consistent quality of shot that you would get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply put my cup in here. And the nice thing about a bottomless portafilter is it gives you a little bit more clearance in between. So you're going to set your cup on your coffee scale. You're going to tear it out so it should be at 0 grams, and then you're going to simply click whatever button it is that brews coffee. So there's 2 buttons on this machine. Well, there's 3. There's the power button here. There's a button with a hand on it, and there's a button with just a cup on it. The button with a hand on it is a start and stop your machine by hand. The other one is a volumetrics one, which means, or a time-based one, which allows you to automatically stop the shot after a certain time. We want to do the manual one because it's going to really help us dial in our shot. Sometimes you will want a timer. This machine just happens to have one built into it because your goal is you put 18 grams of coffee in. You're going to want 36 grams of coffee in your cup, which is known as a 1-to-2 ratio. So twice the amount of water going into your cup than there were coffee beans. So we're going to click that, and then we're going to watch that timer as it extracts. So our goal with this is to aim for about 25 to 30 seconds. And that can vary based off of the beans and based off of the taste that you want. But 25 to 30 seconds is usually a pretty good starting point. That doesn't mean you can't drink it if it's not in that range. It just might taste a little bit better when you do get in that range. So I am definitely running the shot a little too long here. So I hit 36 grams of coffee in 41 seconds. So here's what I want to go with this is that means I did something a little bit wrong. What I would recommend doing is you keep your coffee at 18 grams, you keep aiming for that 36 out, but because it took longer than what it should have, that means I need to go up in number on my grinder, which is going to make the particles of my coffee grounds bigger, which allows less resistance to go through in a quicker time for your shot. So if I move this up to 17, 18 rather than the 15 that I was on, that is going to speed up my shot a little bit more, and I might be closer to that 25 to 30 range. If I was on the opposite end and I got 36 grams of coffee in about 10 seconds, I'm going to want to go down from 15, maybe to 10 or so to tighten it up and make some more resistance in the coffee. So now that we have that done, we have our shot of espresso. And to simply clean up, you can just take your portafilter and pull it out. And then I typically use a knock box, which I don't have around here, which is a little thing to knock it into. But you can also do it in a trash can. But I'm just going to simply take this and put it on the counter next to me and deal with that later. You're going to want to run some water through this, and that's going to clean up all the coffee grounds that are in the group head left over. So now that we got that done, we are going to do one other thing to this cup, and that is if you are somebody who likes flavoring. If you like to have a mocha or a caramel latte, here's how you do it. We're going to go ahead and go over that. I use this brand called Torani. It is a dark chocolate syrup. They also have a caramel. They have a few other flavors. You can also get a vanilla syrup. This is more of a sauce-based thing, so it's going to look like kind of like Hershey's chocolate syrup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add about 30 grams of chocolate straight into my shot of espresso, and that's going to give us a nice mocha flavor. If you like it a little less sweet, then add less grams of chocolate. If you want it more sweet, then add more. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take a spoon of some kind and you're just going to mix it together. I find that 30 grams is a pretty good starting point. The reason why you want to weigh this out is so you know consistently you're going to get what you want. So when you're waking up in the morning, that's one less thing. You don't have to eyeball how much chocolate you're putting in there when you can weigh it out, and then you're going to know it's going to be the same taste day after day after day. So I got that done. And this cup is by Not Neutral. I find this great to make hot lattes in, which is what we're going to do today. Next is steaming. So what you're going to do for steaming, and this is the control for the steaming. This varies by machine. This is the turn legato. I don't know if I said that yet. But we're going to simply turn that on, and we're going to purge out a little bit of water here. You want that steam to be nice. You want that steam to be nice and consistent before you move on to actually steaming your milk, because you don't want water in there. You're going to fill your cup up right to about where the pitcher kind of angles in right here. So right about the top of there, that's going to be perfect for about a 12-ounce drink. And you are going to simply probably watch another milk steaming tutorial, because we're just doing the basics here. But you're going to want to heat it up to about the temperature where you can hold 2 fingers on here, or a few fingers on here for about 2 seconds. That should give you the temperature that you want to gauge by your hand. And you're going to want the edge of the tip at the very edge of the milk here, and that's going to create some bubbles, and then you're just going to drop it in once it starts to look more like wet paint. I have the steam one angled in so it's sitting at the corner of the pitcher, so it's like right here on the pitcher rather than in the center. That's going to create a kind of whirlpool texture. This is going to take about 40 seconds to steam. Once you get it up to temperature, you're going to want to turn it off while the steam wand is submerged in the milk, otherwise you will create a mess. You're going to move that steam wand arm, and then you are going to try to hit your pitcher on the counter to remove any of the large bubbles. This does take a lot of practice and a lot of time, and then you're just simply going to pour into your cup, and maybe we'll have some latte art, maybe we won't. I would recommend watching somebody who is a little bit better at latte art than me to learn proper steaming techniques. The reason for that is there are a lot of really great baristas on YouTube who have worked in coffee for a long time, and they have had a lot more experience steaming milk. When you are somebody who works in a cafe or a coffee shop, you are going to steam hundreds and hundreds of lattes a day. I might hit a couple hundred in a year. So they're getting much, much more practice. What you're going to do after that is you're going to want a wet rag, and you are going to simply just clean off that steam wand and that milk residue. You don't want that on your shot or on your steam wand from day to day. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put it back over your drip tray, and you're going to purge out the rest of your milk. And there you have it. That is how you make a latte. If you want to do the same thing iced, all you need to do is you need to pull your same shot of espresso just like you did this first time. You're going to add your 30 grams of whatever sweetener you want in there. You're going to mix it into your shot of espresso. You're going to put some ice in there, and that ice is going to cool down that espresso. And then you're going to fill it up with milk, as much milk as you want. I would also kind of maybe recommend weighing out your milk too, so you can be as consistent as possible. So when it comes to gear, I want to give you a few reminders. Is this is probably the best value for a machine on the market. This comes in at $500. You can maybe find it as an open box for around 425 that I've seen occasionally. This is probably the starting one that you'd want to go to. I know it sounds like a lot to get into, but if you really go less than that, you could maybe get the Breville Bambino or any Breville one. Those would be okay as well. Those might become a little less, but you really do get a lot for the value when it comes to this machine. Anything less than that is just not going to give you the steaming power you want, not going to give you the quality that you want. If you're trying to duplicate and cut down on your time going to coffee shops, this is the machine that's going to get the closest for you at the lowest value. Again, I know it sounds a lot, but when it comes to the world of espresso, to get a machine that can heat up that quickly, can steam milk as well as it does, has this little temperature gauge here that you can adjust. We're not going into all of that stuff. It is a really, really good value for $500. When it comes to grinders, again, you want something that is a good quality grinder that's going to give you fine enough results for espresso and consistent enough results for espresso. So if you purchase something like the Baratza Encore, which is $140, or anything cheaper that has a motor in it, it's not going to give you fine enough coffee to really give you the resistance that you need. It's not going to be consistent enough, and you're going to be more frustrated when it comes to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link some of the cheaper products in kind of the more entry level ways to go to espresso, coming from this machine that's going to be in there at $500 to some that are around $300 that might have a little less features. I'm going to do a couple different options of price points. The more you spend, kind of the better results that you're going to get, but you're going to need to spend probably at least $700, $500 to $700 minimum to get into making good quality lattes at home, unless you buy on the used market or you do manual and hand grind your coffee, or you do a manual espresso machine. Then you can maybe do it a little bit cheaper, but this is going to be kind of the starting point, is going to be $500 to $700, and then you can make good quality consistent lattes, consistent shots of espressos, whatever you kind of want with this machine. So I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions on any of this equipment or any of the things that I ran into, again, you need a machine, a grinder, a steaming pitcher, and you need a scale. Scale is going to give you consistencies. Again, I know this sounds like a lot of money, but this is going to leave you a lot less frustrated in your espresso journey and get you to where you want to be. Let me know if you have any questions. Write those in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.